people who don't work or go to school, what do you do? This might not be quite what you have in mind, given that it is a job, but enough people treat it like I'm a perennial slacker that I figure it probably counts. I write smut for a living, but I found that if I write more than about 4,000 words a day on a regular basis, I get burnt out. That means I'm limited to about 2 hours of work a day, plus an hour or so once a week for basic admin. Other than that, my time is my own. As for what I do in my off time, it's pretty much a case of trying to keep myself occupied. That means a lot of learning stuff. Duolingo for languages, and I've just started Code Academy, and occasional attempts at working out that never seem to stick. I try not to waste too much time online, which means limiting myself when it comes to messing around on the internet. Thank you, Leech Block, and avoiding binge-watching shows during the day. Sometimes I cook, or more often, if there's a new recipe I've been wanting to try, I'll do all the prep work before my boyfriend gets home from work. Then I'll throw it on to cook at around 8 p.m. There's not a lot in the way of housework. 2 people, a small flat, kind of neat to begin with, so I mostly spend my time reading. I'm a big believer that the best way to become a good writer is to read all kinds of books, good or bad, in any and all genres. So I read about a novel a day, which involves a lot of trips to the library. Sometimes I'll read there, sometimes I'll go to the park and find a bench for an hour or so. Sometimes I'll stop in at the pub at the bottom of my street and have a beer and a sandwich for lunch and read there. Basically, it's just a way to get myself out of the house so I don't go completely stir-crazy. Still, it's not always ideal. The fact that I don't go for longer than about 2 hours means that I never feel comfortable taking full days off. The last day I didn't write at all, according to my chart, was in March, when I had a wedding to go to and we stayed overnight. Which means that number one, everything kind of blurs into one seamless pattern, and number two, I get very stressed if I don't make time to do at least something, or if it just isn't coming for whatever reason. The money's okay, although it's sometimes hard to motivate yourself and there's no immediate punishment for not working. I have a pretty large back catalog and a bunch of books in storage waiting to be put up after the summer slump, so I'm pretty set if I want to take time off whenever I choose. I just know it's very difficult to get back into the swing of things afterwards. I'm convinced that if I could double my word count, I'd be making really good money. Well, I'd assume double what I'm making now and possibly more, and it would still leave me with a load of free time in my hands, but the burnout is intense. That said, I wouldn't go back to an office job for all the money in the world. Story 2. I'm my sister's caretaker, which is a full-time job that I don't get paid for. My sister is in the disability process, and we've been working with the state and a disability advocate for 6+ months, trying to figure out how to either get a personal care assistant so I can find work or to get paid for being her caretaker, but so far, no dice. During the day, I make sure my sister takes her medications, eats, gets to her appointments, set up appointments for her, researches her resources, and things like that. She's schizophrenic and has hypothyroidism and an abnormality in her white blood cell count, so she gets infections easily and has less ability to fight them, so I have to keep the place clean for her, which can be daunting. To sustain us, I do whatever I can to make money whenever I can. I clean houses, cut hair, babysit, house sit, help people move, do yard work, or do whatever someone is willing to pay me to do. I pick up any free stuff I can sell, and my favorite way to make money is to refurbish furniture. I'm very lucky to have the friends I do because we have no family. And without my friends giving me things to sell, furniture to flip, and throwing work my way, we'd be screwed. To pay our rent, I do work on the house for the landlord. Our house has a lot of things that aren't up to code and a lot of stupid, sloppy construction mistakes. Again, I'm very lucky for the friends I have. My best friend is an electrical engineer and former electrician, and he helped me rewire the garage last month. Another good friend is a fishing and farming carpenter who has helped me do things like install an exhaust fan, fix the drywall, and patch leaks in the basement. I work all day, every day just to scrape by, but I make sure I squeeze in time to do what makes me happy, somehow. For example, I found a plastic spinning multicolored light thing, put it up in our tiny shed and made a rave cave to listen to music and relax at the end of the day. It's ridiculous and hilarious that I'm damn near 30 and turning a 5x8 foot shed into a one-person dance club nightly, and somehow it makes the hand we've been dealt with seem like it's not so bad. Story 3. There are a lot of stories regarding housewives, husbands, or stay-at-home people with a SO who brings in the money, but I haven't really seen too many posts of single people living on their own, so I'll share my story. I just turned 29 last week. I was also born completely deaf. As a result of this disability, I'm under the government Social Security insurance program. I receive approximately $750 to $800 a month. I've not had a job since dropping out of college, just under 10 years now. I generally bounce around places because I haven't found anyone or anything to tether me to a location. I'm a free spirit, following the wind. However, that said, my last 2 places are, I moved to Philadelphia about 3 years ago. I saw on Craigslist that there was a house offering rooms for rent at a good price, so I went there to check it out. Anyone familiar with the city knows the worst area in Philadelphia is northern Philadelphia. The home was slightly off to the left from the center of the worst block in the city, full of people you would expect. The house itself was okay. Everything worked, even though the appearance wasn't great. I didn't care. It was livable. The rent ran me $300 for a room. I shared this house with 7 other tenants. This house is a 3-story townhouse. Most of the tenants were cool people and I had a nice time living there. Back to the point at hand, rent ran me $300 and food ran me about $100 a month. Drop another $100 for phone or Netflix or Hulu or miscellaneous online stuff. That leaves me with $250 to play with. I do not socialize, I do not drink, and I do not smoke cigarettes. I spent the majority of my life on the computer, playing and working. I wasn't able to save money, but I never struggled either. I lived there for a year, then I met my SO and moved into his apartment. Rent changed to $350 and I was now responsible for utilities. On the plus side, it's just me and him in a 2-bedroom apartment. Despite the cost increases, the benefits far outweigh them. We lived together for a few months. Then he was arrested and I ended up living by myself, basically house-sitting for him. This went on for a year. Rent was $350, utilities were $100, and internet was $50. $100, phone, Netflix, Hulu, or miscellaneous, that's $600. I only had $150 to play with. Still reasonable when considering I was living in a 2-bedroom apartment by myself. People often ask, how the heck can you live on such a meager sum of money? And I always respond by saying there are a lot of things you want but don't need. I don't need to go to rock climbing classes. I don't need a car. I don't need to go out every Friday to eat and drink. If you must drink, buy a 6-pack and come right back home. If you must drink with someone, invite them to your place. Hell, rent a keg for all I care. That's still a lot cheaper than going to a bar. The point is that everything is cheaper if you do it at home. My daily life is mostly Netflix and the internet. It's kind of a boring life, but it's stable. Story 4. I'm 28 and live with my mother. I haven't worked in 3 years. My mom pays for all of my room and board. For spending money, I receive checks from Social Security. The twist is that I have terminal cancer. I had to leave my job that I loved as a sous chef at a fine dining restaurant because of the risk of infection after I had been diagnosed for a year. Now, after 4 years of chemotherapy, radiation, and a bone marrow transplant, all of which did nothing to help me and actually did quite a bit of harm, I am too weak, sick, and susceptible to infection that I can't even get a menial desk job. I absolutely hate it. I feel useless. I've always had a strong work ethic and now feel I contribute nothing to society. My mother is an absolute godsend. She's there to take me to any medical appointment and supplies all my needs, like housing, food, and cable. Without her, I don't know what I would do. The check I get from SS is nothing and wouldn't even cover rent, let alone any of the medical bills. And I'm lucky I even got to know that I had actually paid taxes enough before I got sick to be able to withdraw SS. I had been working since 13 and paying income tax consistently since at least 15. Most of the check goes to paying off medical bills that seem to just never go away, and what's left is a new video game. My daily life is extremely boring. When I'm feeling healthy enough, I may go to the grocery store and get stuff for dinner. I'll then have to take a break because I'm tired from that small activity. If I'm really feeling good, I'll even make dinner. If it's been a while since I've gone transfusions, that's when I feel really bad. On those days, I'll scroll through my phone on the couch, and if I get a burst of energy, I may play video games. On bad days, there's a good chance I won't even get out of bed. Story 5. I just started a new contract 2 weeks ago, but I'll give you a breakdown of my routine. 26-year-old white male with a graphic design degree. I would wake up, go to the gym, a free one at the apartment my wife and I rent, shower, eat, apply for jobs, look at ACX, and see if there are any books I want to audition for. When a friend gets online, I play games with him, occasionally go to a job interview, feel worthless, try not to spend any money since only my wife is bringing something in, go grocery shopping, wait for my wife to get home so she can tell me I'm not worthless, cook dinner, fight over what to do because I've been doing nothing all day and she should get to choose and she's the breadwinner, watch TV, and eventually go to bed feeling a complete sense of dread that tomorrow may not be different. My recent stint of unemployment went for almost half a year and it doesn't feel good at all. Luckily, my wife has been patient with it since those lean months aren't representative of the whole year. When I do get paid, I get paid well enough that it all evens out. But it takes forever to find a new contract. Still hoping for full-time somewhere. We're doing okay financially, and if we weren't, I would definitely take another job for the pay. If you're ever in a situation like this, don't think any job is beneath you. If you need to pay bills, there's nothing wrong with working another job while you search for your dream. I hope that all of you are happy in your lives. I'm 2 weeks into a contract that will last me past the end of the year, so I have plenty of work to do that keeps me busy. Hey there, we'll dive deeper into the rest in a second, but before we continue, make sure to give us a thumbs up and subscribe to never miss out on our engaging content. Story 6. Here's a summary of my recent time spent unemployed after college. I just received a job after 6 months of unemployment, and I start next week. Nothing remarkable happened, but it feels good to reflect after coming out of the other side with a position. I spent the first month getting a few certifications I thought would be useful to my job search, hazmat, first aid. That probably shouldn't have taken a month, but I had just graduated and was happy to take things slow. The next 2.5 months, I treated my unemployment like a job. I tried to wake up early and spent a good 8 hours applying for positions, editing my resume, and calling businesses. It started off well, but I think it ultimately burned me out. I wasn't getting calls back and couldn't find many positions I was qualified for. My girlfriend, who found a job straight out of college, supported us. The guilt of not adding to the mix was getting to me. After the 2.5-month job search, I was losing my mind, so I decided to take it slow for a little bit. I started to only search for a job for 3 hours in the morning, then take a break and do something active and fun before or after lunch, and then return to do a couple more hours. I ended up playing a ton of disc golf over the following month and got pretty good. My overall outlook on myself and my unemployment got a lot better at this time. This was also the time I got my first interview, which didn't go great but didn't go awful either. I left thinking it went well, and now looking back after so many other interviews, I just have to laugh at how unpolished I was. Interviewing is really something you need to practice. There's a big difference between reciting answers to questions you thought might be coming and having an intelligent and open discourse with your interviewer. The last month and a half was where everything came into place. I was getting calls for interviews with a few companies I had recently applied to, and some companies I had applied to in those early months had reached out to me. I was eventually hired by the company where I had my first bad interview after 2 more exceedingly better ones this past month. Story 7. I lost my job in London when I was 26. I tried finding something new, but I'd been dumped recently and was more into feeling sorry for myself. I lasted about 6 months in the dole before I had to move back in with my folks in rural Cork, Ireland. Everything fell from there. I got really depressed and stopped talking to friends. I wake up around 1 or 2 every day, first J around 4, first cider around 7, rinse and repeat. That lasted 2 years. Then a close friend of mine got into a car crash and messed up his arm really badly. He was on his own most of the time, so I'd travel up to Dublin to take care of him for weeks at a time. From there, I started blending back in with some of the friends I'd lost contact with and met a girl that I instantly fell in love with. She's much smarter than me, really talented, and forced me to kind of put my life together before I'd have a chance. I took a crappy part-time job that I parlayed into a crappy full-time job. I'm hoping to eventually reach the crest of the wave and get a not-too-crappy job in the next year. I'm 31 and living with my lady now. Oh, things are good. I guess what I'm saying is keep on trucking, man. It's purgatorial now, but the salvation most of us need isn't some grand event. You just need one good thing to happen, and when it does, you need to snap out of being miserable quickly enough that you don't mess it up. Story 8. I'm not the ideal candidate for this question, but I'd still share. I dropped out of my expensive, top-tier liberal arts college this summer, where I was about to enter my senior year of an English degree and secondary teaching license. Something really bad happened to me. I was too embarrassed to get any help, and I basically descended into devastating depression for the rest of the school year. I was on the edge and socially withdrawn. I was too scared to go back, and thankfully, my family has been very supportive. I made my decision not to go back late in the summer, so I didn't have time to get my life together and transfer. I'm hoping to be admitted to a very good and very affordable state university in January. I live with my mom, spend my days going to therapy twice a week, once with my trauma counselor and once with my psychiatrist. I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and anxiety, so some days I honestly have trouble getting out of bed. I go to yoga as many days a week as I can afford. I'm trying to get in the habit of going to the gym. I watch a lot of Netflix and play with my dogs. I just got a puppy, so I've been training her. I play video games with my boyfriend on Steam and he's not at work. I did manage to register for a few online classes at the community college, but the workloads are pretty light, so I don't do much with those. I do have a job bartending 2 nights a week, but the place is always slow those nights, so really I'm just making pocket change. My parents didn't want me to work, but it makes me feel better about myself to not be totally useless. I go to a bar with a friend from high school on Tuesday nights. I spend weekends with my boyfriend and college friends. I wrote what would have been my senior creative writing thesis, and I'm working on a poetry manuscript for an undergrad competition. I've also picked up the new hobby of homebrewing, so that's cool. And I've lately been doing a lot of research on getting a master's to be a school librarian when I finish my last few semesters of undergrad. That about sums it up for me. I feel like crap most days, but I'm just trying to focus on recovery for now and hope things will be better. I have a job interview tomorrow for a second gig on the days I'm not bartending, so hopefully that will pan out. Story 9. I'm 25 and I've been homeless since March when I lost my job. I never had a college degree and never had the money for college, and you'd be surprised how many loans and grants you get rejected for. Maybe that's just my luck. Anyways, what I do is when I wake up, I usually take a dip in the canal for a somewhat clean bath. Then I drive or push my car to Starbucks where I use their free Wi-Fi to fill out job applications, make calls, and usually get nothing back. Sometimes I hear the bittersweet lie, "We'll call you back later today." But the call never comes, and I start to slip back into depression. I do small jobs for friends and acquaintances, mostly landscaping stuff or taxi services. If I don't have any jobs lined up or any money, and I'm depressed enough to not be completely overcome by shame, I go to the gas station and hold up a sign pretty much begging for money. Then, if I have absolutely nothing to do or there's nothing lined up, I go use the Starbucks Wi-Fi for Reddit and YouTube. Then I wrap everything up and the store starts to close down. I drive my car to somewhere safe, most of the time nowhere is really safe, and I put the tire iron by my foot just in case someone tries to break into my car while I'm in it. Then I go to sleep or honestly just cry until I pass out, and then rinse and repeat. Sometimes, if I have the gas money to do it, I go stand-up comedy so I can feel normal again. Other than that, rinse, repeat, and get caught up in the thought process of wanting to live another day and asking myself, is it worth going another day? Story 10. I recently turned 30. I'm currently on disability due to end-stage renal failure. I'm awaiting a transplant and take a medical leave from my MA program in curriculum and instruction, teaching digital multimedia and technology. Ideally, based on new blood work and tests, I can have a transplant sometime late this fall. However, I've been on leave for the past year doing hemodialysis for 10 months and recently switching to peritoneal dialysis at home. So I'm in this state of limbo, unable to finish my program other than read extra materials or follow some lectures, but I can't do the distance learning as I don't qualify. In my spare time, I read quite a bit, play video games, watch movies, and write, and I started working on some stop-motion and diorama robot films. I'm also searching for a new puppy. I've developed some kind of depression due to a few factors, one of which was the loss of my first kidney transplant around this time last year, and my girlfriend leaving me a week before surgery while I was rejecting the last organ and nearly passing away. Seizures, pulmonary edema, and some other complications. Anyway, here I am. Thanks for watching this video on people who don't work or go to school, what do you do? If you found this insightful, you might be interested in exploring another aspect of career choices. Check out the next video. People who earn a good salary with a low-stress job, what do you do? Story 3 is a great idea. See you there.